Okay, so between last week and this week's episodes of The Owl House, one thing has become clear to me in relation to my enjoyment of the show. I prefer when the show isn't juggling two completely different A-plots and B-plots, but rather have the A-plot and B-plots focus on two different perspectives of the same narrative. Keeping Up A-Fear-ances was a very personal episode of The Owl House that gave the Clawthorne sisters a spotlight as they begin to unpack their parental issues with Mama herself, Gwendolyn Clawthorne. And in the process, the ball has really gotten rolling with Season 2's storyline, as we're now entering a new story arc centered around Luz's mission to create a portal home, unaware of the looming threat that awaits her. While I'm sure we all want to gush and theorize about Luz's mysterious clone, proving a major fan theory from last year correct, we have everything with the Clawthorne sisters to break down first. And a reveal like this is worthy of its own theory video, so don't be too surprised if my thoughts are a little bit sparse in this one. With all that said, don't forget to throw this video a like once you're done watching, and let's dive right in. Heading into flashback territory, we finally received the next piece of Ida's origin story, with two significant events: how she obtained her signature gem, and how she obtained the portal to the human realm. Ida's gem was given to her by a healing master, as a means to gauge the severity of her curse, after Ida explains her nightmares of the Owl Beast, and how they correlate to her real-time blackouts and transformations. It's evident that in the months following Lilith placing the curse onto Ida, Gwendolyn has dedicated all of her time, energy, and resources to finding a cure. As we discussed before, Ida's curse can really be equated to a disability or chronic illness. So, as the healing master implies, there really isn't a cure or fix-all that'll remove the Owl Beast from Ida's body. Like any disability, handicap, or chronic illness, Ida, and her family by extension, need to adapt to these changes rather than reject them. I feel as if the storyline of Gwen is a pretty clear allegory to parents who struggle with accepting their children's disabilities and refuse to let go of the idea that their child can go back to quote-unquote normal. Startled by her mother's lack of regard for what Ida herself wants, the young Clawthorne storms out of her house and stumbles upon a gated area that she doesn't recognize, a location I assume we'll visit again in the near future. Outside the gates, Ida would trip over what was practically implanted into the ground, the portal to the human realm, which once sustained huge damage on its eye. Which has me curious, was this portal abandoned, or did someone make an attempt to destroy it? Ida would then activate the portal, creating a gateway to Earth, which appears to be the exact same environment Luz would be abducted from, and on a whim, charges headfirst into the portal. The rest of this particular tale left open in the air. I assume Ida's time on Earth, what she may have learned or anyone she may have encountered, will be followed up on again later on in the season. In present day, Ida unveils her new attire, one that brings her even closer to her anime counterpart Ryoko from the Tenchi Muyo series. In particular, this outfit gives off the same vibe as Ryoko's red and black battle outfit from the first and second OVAs. Recently, over on the official Disney TVA Instagram, an animatic versus animation comparison of the Season 2 theme song was uploaded, and during Ida and King's spotlight, you may notice that in the animatic, Ida is actually wearing this uniform while King has his repaired horn. So chances are, the second half of the season will actually update the opening visuals, just like the fancy anime. Luz has begun researching a way to conjure a portal back to the human realm, discussing her frustrations with Ida over the scarce information. In response, Ida expresses her empathy for Luz and the situation, nearly opening up about her experiences with finding the portal door, until a painful shriek from Lilith catches everyone's attention. Considering Luz's ambition to return to Earth seems to be a storyline that'll be followed up until the mid-season finale, if not even past that, I assume we will uncover the rest of Ida's tale over the following episodes as Luz gets closer and closer to finding a way back to Earth. And yes, Lilith is succumbing to the effects of the curse too, nearly transforming into the Raven Beast, before Ida diffuses the situation with an elixir. Ida remarks that stress makes the curse act stronger, which is once again another parallel to real-life medical conditions, and the toll that stress can have on your body. Side note, I appreciate that we had a moment where Lilith processes how much hell she's put her sister through by placing the curse onto her, but at the same time, I was kinda left thinking, seriously? How is this just now setting in? She witnessed how excruciating this was on Ida numerous times. I'm glad her character is apologetic at this point in time, but I would have rather had this moment see Lilith accept the curse as karma and walking a mile in her sister's shoes, but this is kind of a nitpick. Gwendolyn arrives at the Owl House, claiming she's found another way to remedy Ida's curse, and failing to realize Lilith has inherited the curse, thinking it's just hair dye, only for Ida to swiftly kick her mother to the curb, much to the dismay of Luz and Lilith. Gwendolyn states that this has been a 30-year mission, and considering Ida was cursed in her teenage years, we can safely assume Ida is currently in her 40s. This episode was definitely written in 2020, as Gwendolyn has a lot of anti-vaxxer vibes, questioning the contents of Ida's elixirs and seeking out alternative medicine through merchants who just really want all of her money. Case in point, Master Wartlop, who's really just a band of gremlins doing their best Vince Adultman impression.
I like business.
Finessing Gwendolyn of various heirlooms and payments in exchange for phony tomes and false information. Wartlop is a pretty direct representation of those who prey on the naive and the elderly, capitalizing on any fear or distrust for financial gain. As long as it sounds smart and looks trustworthy on paper, there's someone out there who will fall for it, regardless of what licensed professionals who spent years of their lives researching these things have to say. Lilith and King share a moment venting over their parental woes, which kind of broke my heart, not just for Lilith implying that King's father doesn't care about him, but because of King's optimism that he'll see his dad again. There's already suspicions that King's father is the Titan or the true King of Demons, if this character isn't both. And if what we already know about the Titans is true, then there's reason to believe that King's father has already perished. That King technically does see his father every day as a giant pile of bones. King's father hasn't sought him out because his father is no longer a part of this world. Or again, he is a part of it, but you know, in a more literal, less living pulse kind of way. Ida's line, "You weren't healing me, you nearly killed me," is another one of those lines that clearly gives the story a double meaning. And you really can't help but to feel for Ida here. She knows her body and her curse better than anyone around her at this point. Yet her mother just can't let go of the idea that her daughter can be cured if she tries extreme tactics and throws enough money at Wartlop. Ida and Lilith both succumb to the curse, giving us our first look at Lilith the Raven Beast, aligning with her Palisman, clashing against one another in a loss of control. Also, I just gotta point out, King is indeed a king, with how he popped off on Gwendolyn for neglecting Lilith.
That was my little sweet flea. That means she's also cursed. Yes! Were you not paying any attention to her?
Gwendolyn has a heart-to-heart with her daughters, realizing how she made Ida feel terrible about her curse, recognizing that the curse is a part of Ida, whether if they like it or not, and every part of Ida is loved. As for Lilith, Gwendolyn admits that despite how self-sufficient Lilith is, she still needed recognition and affirmation that Gwendolyn deprived her of. It's also worth noting that once Ida has her mother's acceptance of the curse, she's able to combat against the outbeast within her mindscape, the curse transforming from this eclipsing, overwhelming force to a minuscule threat that she's in control of, not the other way around. With this reconciliation, Ida fully welcomes her mother back into her life, while Lilith decides to head back with Gwendolyn, returning to the Clawthorn's childhood home. While Lilith wants to learn more about the curse, she's eager to return home and reconnect with her father, which provokes a peculiar reaction from Ida. I don't think it's a stretch to say that Ida has a strained relationship with her father, one that's probably far more complicated than the relationship she has with her mother. After all, there's likely a narrative decision behind excluding Mr. Clawthorn from these flashbacks, and we don't have the full picture behind Ida's rebellious nature that stemmed from her childhood. I think the piece to completing that puzzle lies in learning all about her father and his relationship with Ida. I'm not necessarily surprised Lilith got written out for later in the season, mainly because for the last 2 or so years, I've been watching animation with as much production knowledge as possible, and with that mindset, I don't think Lilith could have appeared super frequently in every single episode throughout this season without eating into the voice budget, so it makes sense they moved her to a faraway location until they're ready to bring her back in. I do think the writers made a good call on this decision, as without the Emperor's Coven, there's only so much they could do with Lilith crashing out the Owl House. She's not an opposing force anymore, and they kinda downgraded her to a powerless position. So while I'm hoping she doesn't develop too much off screen, I'm glad they're not dragging out her bumming on the couch either. Before Gwendolyn departs, she reveals to Luce that she wasn't the first human to live in Bonesboro. Something mentioned in the first episode of the series was that a lot of the folklore and myths in the human realm were the result of magic leaking over from the demon realm. Now, we know that this is through the use of Titan's blood, which creates rifts between the two realms. According to Gwendolyn's great-grandmother, a human used to live in the Boiling Isles all those years ago. I'm talking numerous decades, before one day he just suddenly vanished in thin air. Similar to how, according to King's book in Youngblood Old Souls, Emperor Belos suddenly appeared out of nowhere 50 years ago. Me thinks that Belos is this human, who is specified to be a man, who once lived in the Boiling Isles, returning to Earth, potentially against his will, due to mysterious circumstances, and then returned 50 years prior to the start of the series, as the entity we see before us today. As I speculated before, I believe Belos is a lich, and considering we're now having decades-old testimonies, alongside as we can state an agony of a witch, I'm confident that's the direction the show is heading towards. I also wonder if Titan's blood is the mysterious substance flowing into the reconstructed portal door in the Season 2B trailer, as Belos inserts a key. And I also wonder if the portal door belonged to Belos himself before getting separated from it, which is why he knew about this portal and wanted it from Ida in the first place. He was simply reclaiming his own invention. Nevertheless, Luz is pointed in the direction of the library, which will be the B-plot in the next episode, through the Looking Glass ruins. Lumity Adventures, here we come! And we gotta shed some light on this jaw-dropping cliffhanger. Summer camp is over back in the human realm, yet Camila Noceda is blissfully unaware that her daughter is still in another dimension. That's because there's already a Luz Noceda who returned home? Creepy Luz is real. Disney TVA fans are on a different level of figuring out plot points a year ahead of time. First with Amphibia and Marcy's knowledge of the Calamity Box, and now with Luz's doppelganger. One thing that I noticed is that Clone Luz, Creepy Luz, whatever you want to call her, sounds a bit more monotone than the bubbly Luz we know and love. This matches up with how robotic the fake letters sent to Camilla were read in a chanting Gromfright. I'm not sure if this has anything to do with Emperor Belos, but maybe there's another antagonistic force at play, one that needs Luz to stay in the demon realm for unknown reasons. But we'll elaborate on this in a dedicated theory video. As always, these are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this episode? Do you believe Belos was a human who lived in the Boiling Isles all those years ago? Let us know in the comments down below, or tweet your thoughts over at Roundtable Vids, and you can find me at OsherFox. We're also on Instagram. If you enjoyed this video, please throw a like, and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. See ya!